Have you ever felt that choosing your first camera is way harder than it should be? I mean, you spent hours scrolling through specs, lens charts, and YouTube videos, and somehow you're still more confused than when you started. Well, I've been photographing for over a decade, I've shot professionally for years, and I've pretty much tested every single Sony camera and lens that has come out. And my friend, in this video right here, I'm going to show you the setup that actually works in real life and not just on paper. Alright, to start with, when you're looking at Sony cameras for the very first time, you'll see something called APS-C and something called full frame. And you might be sitting there wondering to yourself, what the hell is the difference and what does it even mean? Well, to make it super simple, then full frame is a bigger sensor, which means more light, shallower depth of field, and better performance in low light. An APS-C, on the other hand, it's a smaller sensor. It's also usually cheaper, the cameras are lighter, and the lenses, they usually cost less more. And that's definitely true in the world of Sony cameras. Now, the important part to note here is that both types can take absolutely amazing photos. The main difference is basically just the price, the size, and how much, my friend, you care to squeeze every bit of quality out of your gear. With that said, then let's start by taking a look at the Sony APS-C cameras and the one that I personally recommend when you're starting out and you're picking out your first camera and the lenses go with it, all right? So to make things a little bit more confusing, because it's not confusing enough already apparently, then when it comes to Sony APS-C, you have two different types you can choose from. You have the ZV-E model and you have the A6000 models. And they kind of look the same. What's the difference? By the way, I made a free 30-day email series to help you compose your photos better. Basically, we're diving into the fundamentals as well as how to make your photos stand out using color and light. It's totally free and you can find it in the description down below. So, what is the main difference then between the ZV-E models and the A6000 models? Well, basically in a nutshell, then the ZV-E models are more geared towards video creation and content creation, while the A6000 models are more of a hybrid cameras and more geared towards then still photographers and people that also want to make photos. You will notice that the ZV-E models have no viewfinder, which is this little viewfinder here, which allows you to line the camera up to your eye and look in here while you're taking photos. That's personally something that I enjoy a ton when it comes to taking photos, and I just like that. The ZV-E10 is a great beginner content creation camera. It can film 4K footage up to 30 frames per second. It has a vari-angle LCD screen like this. And on top of that, it's equipped with some smart features that are like good for content creation in general. Now, I'm not going to focus that much on the ZV-E models in this video right here because we have tons of cameras in the Sony roster, and it would just be more confusing for you if I start to name every single one that I've personally used and liked. I mean, at the moment, I think I have like 10 different Sony cameras that I own right now. But instead, I'm going to focus on the A6000 models and give you 3 of the one that I personally would recommend if I were starting out. However, if you're more into video creation and you're not that keen on going strictly into photography, then check out the ZV-E models. You can still take great photos with it. I mean, the ZV-E10 and the A6300 has the same sensor. Even the A6400 has the same sensor. So it's pretty much identical. It's just a little bit different handling, slightly smaller bodies, but you still have tiny body here too. Now, as I just said, when it comes to the A6000 models, you have so many different cameras to choose from, and I know it can be very overwhelming. Personally, if I were starting out and I wanted to get a really budget-friendly camera that does not break the bank at all, then I would take a look at the Sony A6300 or the Sony A6400. Both of these can be found on the second-hand market for a pretty reasonable price. They are a little bit old, but that does not mean it's bad. I mean, these little powerhouses are so small and lightweight. Just look at this. I think they're probably smaller than my phone. If I take away the lens here, you can see the difference. You see this? They're smaller than my phone. Isn't that like something? They're so small in the hand, but still so capable. I mean, both the A6400 and the A6300 are equipped with the same sensor. It has an 24.2 megapixel APS-C sensor. You can film 4K footage up to 30 frames per second. If you want that 120 frames per second ultra slow motion, you can get it in full HD, which at the time when the A6300 came out was absolutely just crazy to me. Super, super nice. In the realms of photography, then you can do continuous shooting up to 11 frames per second, which isn't like the fastest camera or anything like that, but it's pretty decent, especially for the size and the price of this thing. And one thing that I think is important to give shout out to too when it comes to these cameras is that the autofocus is just really, really good. And that's one thing that I've always personally enjoyed about Sony cameras in general, is that their autofocus is just on point. Now you might be then wondering, what is the difference between the 300 and the 400? Not a lot, same sensor. They say that the color science is better on the A6400. I've not seen anything. In fact, these cameras are from the era when Sony color science wasn't as good, so you will have to do a little bit of more tweaking than, for instance, other models, in my opinion. But the biggest difference is that the A6300 has a screen, or this is A6400, they look identical, you see, I didn't even notice, but has a screen that goes up like this. So when you're filming yourself, you can see yourself. It's pretty nice, while the A6300 only goes up like this. So you can't see yourself if you want to film yourself too, which sucks. So if you want to film yourself, then go with this. And again, you can find this on the second-hand market for pretty reasonable price. Now, are they perfect? Definitely not. Neither of these cameras are stabilized, so it's good to pair them with a lens that is stabilized. Not needed. You can, of course, capture photos. Just crank up your shutter speed a little bit more, but it's something to keep in mind. Also, the batteries on these things, I don't even have a battery right here, but it's a small battery. Is it in here? No. Where is? Somewhere here in the room, there is a battery, and it's tiny, and it's not that great. So if you decide to pick up these cameras, pick up a few, like 3, 4, 5 different batteries, and you're gonna be happy that you did that. On that, I think the handling is pretty reasonable. Again, these are really small, which is a pro and a con. We'll get to that when we talked about the full frame models, but it means that the handling is tiny. So if you have big hands like me, it might feel a little bit awkward, but you will get used to it. Now in this series, you have A6 500 and A6 600. I've personally never owned them, so I can't really recommend them, but both are probably great. The A6 500 is a stabilized body, same with the A6 like 400, and the A6 600 is also stabilized, and it has a bigger battery. So if you find them in a good deal, it's something to keep in mind. But this series, pretty much the same, a decent APS-C sensor that has produced pretty decent quality. I mean, look, some of my best photos to this date have been shot on the A6 400 and A6 300, something that I still sometimes sell as prints, and I'm really happy with. So this is definitely a capable camera. Just because it's small and pretty inexpensive does not mean that it sucks, but it's not perfect. But it's pretty damn sick. Now, if you have a little bit more moolah and maybe a little bit more to work with, and you still want to be in the realm of Sony APS-C, then there is a camera that I think is absolutely fantastic and really sick, and something that got me incredibly excited when it launched, and that is the Sony a6 700. This is the newest one and the flagship model in the Sony APS-C lineup when it comes to these hybrid like cameras. And it's just gorgeous. Now you have a bigger grip. You also have a bigger battery. I don't even have a battery here, but I have one of them here. And you can shoot a ton of photos, a lot of power on this little battery, and it's equipped with a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor. You have this AI chip in it, magnificent autofocus. It's able to recognize so many different things, and it's just so fast. And because it has an AI chip when it comes to that autofocus, basically it means that it can map out my eyes if I move away. It's not reliant on my eye autofocus. It just knows that I'm a human and where my eyes sit. And that means that I can move behind a tree and it still keeps me in focus. It is just absolutely crazy. Really good. And you can film 4K footage up to 120 frames per second. That is pretty sick. The camera, and I'm filming this on, my full frame camera A7 IV can't do that. Now the 4K footage on this camera is cropped, but still a sick feature. The ergonomics of it is also nice. I like that it's still really small, but it has bigger grip than the smaller cameras here. Now it does of course cost more, but this is a phenomenal camera. The sensor in it is the same sensor as the Sony has, or kind of the same sensor as it has in the FX30, which is a cinema line of a camera. So you have a cinema line of a camera that you can still take fantastic photos, is great photo capabilities in this small little body. Also, one thing that is a massive difference for those of you who like to create video, here you have 10-bit color and here you have 8-bit color. I've never liked filming or filming in S-Log or color grading with the a6 400 and a6 300, but here it's just fantastic. So to summarize, if you want to save money, then go and grab yourself a a6 300 and a6 400. That's my opinion. And if you have a little bit more of that moolah, then a6 700 is a good thing. But then you might also be wondering, but if I put all this money on this, then I could grab myself a full frame. Should I do that? Well, we'll dive into that in depth in a second. First, I just want to say and give a huge shout out to today's sponsors, Artlist. So as many of you guys know, then I've been getting all of my music, sound effects, stock footage, templates, and even plugins from them for years. Look, I've been at this for almost 10 years. I've tried every single one of the competitors, and this is genuinely what I think. Else I wouldn't be taking them on as a sponsor, you know? And the reason that I think they are the best is because they're a true one-stop shop for all creatives and freelancers out there. Basically, their mission is to make the lives for us creatives and freelancers so much simpler by providing us all of the digital assets we need to create banging content. I have no idea why I did this. I'm just excited. Now, one thing I personally think is cool that they've been focusing on lately is creating these AI tools. I'm talking things like advanced AI voiceover features, text-to-image generation, and my personal favorite, which is an image-to-video generator, which allows me to make videos out of my own still photos. I think this is just sick. Because as a photographer and a creative, it just expands the creative possibilities that I have. I love it. One thing that's worth mentioning too is that they've just added Google's VO3, which allows you to create ultra-realistic videos from text prompt with smooth camera motion, fantastic details, and synced native audio. My friends, the future is really here, and if you want to try it out, there is a link down in the description which gives you 2 months extra off your yearly subscription. Plus, it helps support the channel. Big thanks to you, my friend, for clicking it, and massive thanks to Artlist for helping me keeping these videos coming. Alright, so when it comes to the lenses for your APS-C cameras, then personally, in my opinion, there are 2 routes that you can go. Obviously, when you start out, you pick a few lenses, and as you get them more and more into this, you'll just gather an arsenal of lenses. At the moment, I have way too many lenses. We shouldn't, don't tell my wife. It's like one of them things, you buy a lens and she goes like, how much did they cost? It costs like amount of dollars. But in my opinion, either go with prime lenses or zoom lenses. I'll tell you my preference in a second. Basically, a prime lens is a fixed lens with a fixed focal length. For instance, here I have a Sigma 60mm. It only goes to 16mm. While a zoom lens here, this is the Sony 16 to 55mm, and here I'm able to go to 16 to 55mm. Why would you choose one over the other? Or why would you choose a prime lens when you can get multiple lenses kind of in one? Well, a prime lens, it's usually sharper, and you usually can get better quality, and often they go to lower aperture. This one goes to f1.4, which means it puts a lot of light into the camera and the sensor and allows you to get very beautiful blurry background and that bokeh and all that. This one goes to 2.8. And if you want to go the prime route, then I would personally check out the Sigma Trio. It's a little bit old, but it's still fantastic. Then you have the Sigma 60mm, you have the Sigma 30mm, and you have the fantastic Sigma 56mm. All of these lenses are f1.4. They're razor sharp. This one is one of my favorite lenses for portraits and also street photography when it comes to the APS-C, and I think it's fantastic. Now, personally, I'm much more of a zoom guy. You find me on Zoom calls. That was such a bad joke. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But the reason that I like zoom lenses is because I do a lot of what's known as run and gun photography. I'm often on the go. I'm both hiking and traveling, and I just can't be arsed. I can't be bothered to switch lenses all the time. So I think it's really nice to slap on a lens that works, and I can just have that on. And then you can have 1 or 2 lenses. Now, since you're a beginner and you're wondering what should I choose, then I would probably maybe not pick this lens right here. This is the Sony 16 to 55. It's fantastic. It's really good. It's also pretty expensive. Now, if you're one that has a lot of moolah and you want to blow it on the best you can, this one, great. But it is also a little bit big. Sigma has an 18 to 50mm, if I remember correctly. I don't own it, but I've tried it multiple times. It's really good. Like phenomenally good. And it's much, much smaller and it costs less. Win-win, maybe, kind of. But that's a great lens that I would check out, all right? So that would definitely be my first lens in the APS-C world. One thing that you can also pair it with if you want to have 2 lenses is then to get on wide angle as well. Now, Sigma also has a 10 to 18mm that I think is great. So those two pair well with each other. So that would be my lens choices and was something that I would look into. I'm sure there are more. If you know anything more, let me know in the comments down below. Let's help each other out. But if you also want a very, very good zoom lens for the APS-C, Sony has a 70 to 350mm. I don't own it anymore. I sold it, but I have owned it and it's fantastic. The zoom capabilities on it is just wild, especially considering how small it is. And that is really the strength of the APS-C is the size. Because if you're on the go a lot and you don't want to carry with your big ass gear, APS-C is definitely something that I would look into. However, full frame is also an option. I know, we're just making this more and more complicated for you, my friend. But let's take a look then at the full frame cameras, and then the full frame lenses. And I'm sure you're going to be a little bit like, huh, what should I pick? But I'm gonna help you, all right? All right, so when it comes to the full frame realm of Sony cameras, as a beginner photographer, then in my opinion, there are only 2 cameras that I would recommend, maybe 3 cameras. So let's make this pretty simple. The first thing that you should keep in mind too, that just like with the APS-C cameras, then with the full frame, you have the ZV model, and then you have the A7 lineup, all right? I have the ZV-E1, where is it? Here. This is the ZV-E1. Just like the ZV-E10 and even the ZV-E10 Mark II, which I didn't mention, that's a great camera too. Then the ZV-E1 is more focused towards video and content creation. This is a phenomenal camera. Like, it can film 4K footage up to 120 frames per second with minimum crop. It is so good when it comes to the realm of content creation. It's filled with so much smart features that I'm not going to dive in here. Fantastic autofocus, if I remember correctly. It has this AI chip. It's just a great camera, and it blows my mind every time that I use it how small it is. But again, it's more for videos. Can it take photos? Of course, but it's geared toward videos. So if you want to do videos, I'm saying videos too much. You can do a drinking game now to the videos, but then this is something that you should definitely be on your list. But since I don't know what you are mostly into, but I'm mostly into photography, then there are 2 cameras that I would recommend, and both of them are kind of the same. Wow, same, but still different. You're not making my life easier, I know. While I have your attention, smack the like button for me. So the cameras that I would personally recommend for beginners who want to step into the full frame world is the Sony a7 IV. I'm filming this video on the Sony a7 IV. It's my main camera. I shoot most of my photos and most of my videos with it. Or the Sony a7C Mark II. Same sensor. Identical camera, just the C2, it's smaller. It only has 1 SD card, while this one can take 2. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's a similar size to the APS-C cameras, which is crazy, but a full frame sensor. I don't know if this is still, it used to be like the biggest or the smallest full frame sensor on the market. I don't know if it is that still, but it is a phenomenal camera and so small. I think this is a crazy little camera. Plus, it looks really nice. But the biggest difference is that the a7 IV has bigger grip, and you have 2 SD cards. And some people like the bigger grip, and it's just more of a camera, you know? Now, when you're on the internet, you will also notice that in the A7 lineup, just to make it a little bit more complicated, you have A7, then you have something called A7S, and also something called A7R. Basically, in the middle, you have the A7. That is the hybrid camera. It's geared towards both photography and videography. I do both. So I like this camera a lot here that we have on like A7 IV. But the A7R, that is more of a photo camera. It has fantastic photo capabilities. You have Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4, Mark 5. The higher is, the better and newer the camera is. But just keep in mind, R is more towards photography. If you find something on the second-hand market that has an R in it and you think it's good, take a look at it, compare it to the A7 IV. If it meets your criteria more, pick that. And then the S is more geared towards video. Just keep that in mind. Personally, I love my A7 IV. I've shot so many fantastic photos with it. I still use it to this day and age. It's not like it's that old of a camera, but I've been hammering on it since the day it came out, which is a few years old now, and it still holds up really, really, really well. Now on it, you have a 33 megapixel full frame sensor. It's capable of filming 4K footage up to 60 frames per second, and that 60 frames per second, it is cropped, which is, I mean, it's decent. Not the best, but it's decent. You only have 10 frames per second of burst, if I remember correctly, but in the world of filming, you have 10-bit color, which is really nice. Now these cameras are also stabilized, so you have a 5-axis in-body stabilization. I think it's pretty decent. You have a mode, and this is one thing that I love about Sony cameras in general. You can quickly swap between photo, video, and then you have something called S and Q. I'm not going to dive into this video. I have videos where I show you how to set up these cameras, but basically it allows you to set up your cameras in different modes. And you have this 1, 2, and 3 button. I don't know if you can see it here, but you have this 1, 2, and 3, which is basically allows you to do these memory recalls. So for instance, I have one on RAW and one on JPEG and one with a little creative look. So I can just quickly shoot between them. And in video mode, I have different things too that I have memorized in the camera. So I'm on the go, you know, and I can be like a ninja. I need this, clunk, quick. I have my settings that I like. Both of these are also equipped with these big Sony batteries, which are pretty decent. And as I told you before, the a7 IV, it can have 2 SD cards at the same time, which is really nice. We're in situations where you're doing some side of work where you are not allowed under any circumstances to have your SD card break on you. Then having 2 can be a bit of a peace of mind. Super nice. Imagine doing a wedding and then the SD card breaks. What are you gonna tell the bride? Oh, can we reshoot? Not possible. So very, very nice in some situations. Now, when it comes to filming, one thing I want to add is that both of these cameras have or suffer from a lot of rolling shutter, which isn't that nice. And also, I didn't mention it before, but the A6 300, A6 400, and ZV-E1, they also suffer a lot from rolling shutter when you're filming in 4K. It's just something that you have to live with if you decide to buy these cameras. Now, another camera that's worth to mention is the previous model of the A7 IV, the A7 Mark III. It has a 24.2 megapixel full frame sensor and some other things. It's a decent camera. It's not the best, but it's still a decent camera. And if you're just getting into photography, then go for it. I mean, just get the camera. That's the most important aspect of it. But in my opinion, I would recommend A7C II or A7 IV. It's a lot to remember these names. Like Sony does not make it easy when it comes to the names. Now, you might then be wondering with what lenses should you buy? Well, in my opinion, I would probably, like, you can also always go with a kit lens, and the kit lenses are nice. I know we have on the internet some consensus the kit lenses suck. You cannot take a good photo with a kit lens. Give me a kit lens, brother and sister, and I'll take a good photo for you. I promise you. Not a problem at all. But they might not be the best. I like zoom lenses, like I told you guys before. Of course, you can go and pick a wide angles and there are so many lenses to choose from. In the Sony world, you have so much lenses. And one thing that I have not mentioned either now is that what I think is so cool with Sony is that you have something called E-mount, which is the mount, like this mount right here, all right? And both the APS-C cameras and the full frames have E-mount. So you can use all of the lenses, whether it's from APS-C or full frame, on all cameras. Just keep in mind there's different crop factor and all that, but that is still something that is pretty damn sick. So you have like 82 different lenses to choose from just in the Sony ecosystem. Then you have Sigma, then you have some other brands as well. So it's a ton. Personally, as you know by now, I like zoom lenses. So I would probably pick, it's this one. This one right here. The Sigma 24 to 70 millimeter, and this is the not Mark II. It's a bit heavy, but it's a fantastic glass. It's 2.8, and I love it. It's really versatile. Now, if you have a little bit more of that good moolah, then, I know I'm always saying moolah, but a little bit more of that Momo, we can say Momo too on this channel, then you have, or just money, then you have 24 to 70, 2.8 Mark II. Phenomenal lens, pretty expensive. Little bit more heavy, but they have a Mark II version of this too, which is 30% lighter. Really good all-around lens. If you're doing both a little bit of portrait, both a little bit of street, both a little bit of landscape, this is going to be such a workhorse. I've used this a ton. It used to be actually my all-time favorite lens, but it's not anymore. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Other lenses that I think is worth to mention is the Sigma 16 to 28 millimeter or a Sony 16 to 35 millimeter. And pairing to that too, you're on some really good stuff. The best advice that I can really give you when it comes to picking lenses is that you have to ask yourself, what type of photography am I doing? And then pick based on that. The type of photography that you do will greatly decide and be a deciding factor in the lens choices that you're going to make. Now, since I'm here trying to make your life a little bit easier, then there is this one lens that I recently picked up that has become my new all-time favorite lens. It's absolutely phenomenal, and if I were only able to have one lens in this day and age and pick one, then my friend, this would be the lens that I would choose.